What's up, Broncos country? Welcome back inside the UC Health Training Center for another episode of Broncos Now. Team reporter and host Sydney Jones here. And coming up on today's episode, we'll hear from head coach Nathaniel Hackett as he gives the final injury report ahead of the Broncos Week 13 matchup versus the Ravens. Plus, Broncos lead writer Aric DiLalla joins me here on the show for a game preview. All that and more coming up. This week on Broncos Now, we are giving away a $100 gift card to the Denver Broncos team store. So enter for a chance to win on denverbroncos.com/podcast/Broncos Now. The Broncos hit the road tomorrow as they're set to face the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday at M&T Bank Stadium. We heard from head coach Nathaniel Hackett today, and he discussed what it would mean for this team if they're able to bring home a win this Sunday.
We want to go get our first win. It's that simple. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. Right now, it happens to be the Baltimore Ravens. They're a very, very, very good football team. It's going to be a great challenge for us, and we have to get out there and we got to go win a football game. I think in the NFL, everybody's capable of beating everybody at any time.
And let's take a look at this week's final injury report as head coach Nathaniel Hackett updated us on a few guys. Coach Hackett ruled out defensive lineman Jonathan Harris, linebacker Dakota Allen, wide receiver KJ Hamler, and fullback and tight end Andrew Beck. And cornerback K'Wan Williams, wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, and wide receiver Courtland Sutton are questionable for Sunday's game. Coach Hackett said Courtland has a stomach bug. He also mentioned that Brandon McManus had tightness in his kicking quad today, but should be good to go by Sunday. Coach Hackett also went on to talk about Jerry Jeudy's status and what it meant having him back at practice today.
Good. He'll be a game-time decision. We're still not 100% if he's going to go, so he's just questionable. But it was good to have him out there for a little bit. We got him in some team stuff. He's going to be a game-time decision. We want to be sure he's ready to go.
Now joining me here inside the Broncos podcast studio for a game preview is Broncos lead writer Aric DiLalla. Aric, thanks for joining me again, per usual.
You got it, Sydney.
Well, Aric, the big news of the day was that Jerry Jeudy was back at practice. He's listed as questionable for Sunday's game and will be a game-time decision. Aric, what would it mean for this offense if they're able to get Jerry back on Sunday?
Yeah, a lot, Sydney. And most of the time I would say a guy that doesn't practice Wednesday, Thursday, comes back as limited on Friday and has been out for several weeks. Maybe you're not so sure if that guy's going to play. I'm a little more optimistic than usual just because Nathaniel Hackett said he did some teamwork on Friday. That seemed to be a good sign. Obviously, we've seen him out here running kind of on a side field previously, so it does seem like he's getting somewhat close. I'm not sure if he's going to make it this week, but if he does, it would be a huge boost because he has the ability to create separation in the passing game, something that I think we've seen other guys struggle a little bit with. He's a guy that you have to account for if you're a defense, which, helps Courtland Sutton. It helps Greg Dulcich. It would help Kendall Hinton, Jalen Virgil, Brandon Johnson if they bring him up. So a lot of ways in which Jerry can help the guys around him, but he's also just a really talented player in his own right. And whether it's the route running or the ability to catch the ball, get into space, and get the yards after catch, that's it's all really impressive. And then I believe 3 touchdown receptions, which I think leads the team, which is not great, but you're still getting back the guy who leads your team in touchdown receptions. So would be a big boost and maybe could help this offense get something going.
Definitely. And, unfortunately, Coach Hackett said today that, Courtland has a stomach bug and he was not out of practice. So hopefully he's feeling better for the game and maybe we can get both of them back.
Yeah, that would be great to see those guys on the field together. Sure. Would be great. Obviously, Courtland questionable for the game. Yeah. Hopefully he'll be okay. Some of the guys previously this year that have been listed as questionable with an illness have been able to play, so we'll hope for the best there.
Aric, I know earlier in the week we talked about Latavius Murray in this Broncos run game. How do you hope to see him really continue that performance we saw versus the Panthers? And maybe we see Mike Boone back. Not sure what, what his status will be or, what direction he's moving in, but could be nice to have him back in the lineup there too.
Yeah, definitely. I think with Mike, he also gives you something in the receiving game. He's able to, I think, 6 catches for 60 yards this year. So he's shown his ability to pick up yardage in that aspect of the game. Listen, it's not going to be easy to run the ball against the Ravens. They've got one of the top rushing defenses in the league. So I don't know that you're going to go off for 120, 150 yards against these guys. I think it's more about can you pick up yardage in big moments. If it's 3rd and 1 and you need to run the ball, if it's 4th and 1 and you're going for it, if you're in the red zone, can you pick up the yards in those scenarios? Obviously, we saw Latavius Murray have a big run, have a big game against the Panthers. Hopefully, he can replicate that just in those individual moments, even if it's not kind of the yardage totals. And who knows, maybe you do get to break a run at some point, and that will just help the Broncos from an offensive standpoint in general.
Well, the big task this weekend will be to try and slow down Lamar Jackson. What do you think will be the key for this defense in trying to do that?
Yeah, it's not easy, obviously. And the Ravens are a really good football team, despite the losses they've suffered this season. I think they're probably, one of the top teams in the AFC, if not the league. So this is as big a test as any the Broncos will face all year. I think with Lamar, you've got to decide, do we try to stop his running game completely and force him to throw? That's what the Broncos did a year ago, and it didn't really work very well because he kind of lit him up through the air. So I would expect maybe you look at that tape, take a more measured approach, and don't just dare him to beat you through the air because he can definitely do that. But listen, you've got to swarm to the ball. You've got to make sure that your eyes are good. They run, when they run the read option type stuff, that challenges defense. They've got a lot of motion that they use that tests the defense. So it's a mental challenge as much as anything. And then when you've got an opportunity to tackle him, you've just got to be true to your fundamentals. He's shifty. He's quick. He makes things difficult on you. And the Broncos would be well served here, Sydney, to get a little bit more from their pass rush that has not really done much the last couple of weeks. But if Lamar can sit back there for 4, 5, 6 seconds and then decide, okay, I'm going to either stay here in the pocket and look down the field and make big throws, or I'm going to start running around, that's when the Broncos could get into trouble. And so that could be an issue. And then in the red zone, Sydney, they have to make sure they hold them to field goals. And if you do that, you'll be able to stay in the game. But if they start racking up big plays and get touchdowns in the red zone, it's going to be a long day.
And I know the Ravens, they've struggled in the red zone, so something to keep an eye on for sure. I know this defense are looking to bounce back this weekend. They've struggled last week specifically against the run, but looking at Pat Surtain specifically, He's had a rough couple weeks, and he said that, he's always trying to stay confident. And this week he said he really went back and watched the film and knows what to correct. What do you hope to see from him this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think you want him to just kind of stay positive, do what he can do. I think Ejiro Evero said, I'm not worried about him. He knows, these coaches know the type of player he is. No need to kind of get overly concerned. I mean, even you look at that long pass that was completed to DJ Moore on Surtain. Surtain's in perfect position there. I mean, he can't do much more. It's just a nice play. And so you've got to understand that sometimes that's going to happen. You've got to be able to get back up, not let it kind of compound itself week to week. I believe in Pat Surtain. I believe in his mindset. I believe in his athletic ability. The film study he does, all of that is what makes him a great player. And, it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to have a perfect game again, but I do think we'll see him bounce back. And listen, part of the reason this has come up and we're even talking about it is because he was so good, that we kind of expected
a little hiccup here and there.
We kind of expected perfection, which is an impossible standard to meet.
For sure. Well, Aric, looking at the game as a whole, what do you think is really the matchup to watch this weekend?
I don't know if it's a 1v1 matchup, but just Russell Wilson here, we've got to see, does he come out? Does he have a better game, especially if Jerry Jeudy is out there? Does he start to get something going with Cortland Sutton? Can you get Greg Dulcich more involved? But everything starts with Russell Wilson, and all eyes are on him. Obviously, it's been a tough week around here. Lots of reports, lots of rumors. Teammates have had to address things. So I'm just interested to see how does Russell come out and handle it. And I just keep waiting. I think at some point we're going to see that classic Russell Wilson that we all expect. It's possible against a passing defense that is not, the strength of this Ravens team, that maybe it could happen this weekend.
Well, looking at all of the Ravens' losses this season, and every single one of them, they've blown fourth quarter leads. So maybe that's something to hang our hats on.
Maybe. It also shows they're good enough to get out to those leads.
That's true. Well, Aric, appreciate your time always. Looking forward to heading to Baltimore tomorrow.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Well, that'll do it for today's episode of Broncos Now, Broncos Country. Thanks so much for tuning in. And don't forget to enter for a chance to win that $100 gift card to the Denver Broncos team store. You can fill out the form on denverbroncos.com/podcast/Broncos Now. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you right back here on the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube Monday following Sunday's game. See you all then.